Welcome to Cerberus Prime, the galaxy's most pretentious space station, where the annual Who's the Smartest Species competition takes place. And yes, they actually call it that. Apparently subtlety died somewhere around the third millennium. The station's main conference hall looks like someone took a university lecture theater, multiplied it by 1,000, and then let a committee of aliens with way too much budget and zero taste in interior design go wild. Crystal formations jut out at impossible angles. Holographic displays float everywhere, showing complex equations that probably just spell out, "Look how smart we are," in 17 different languages, and the whole place hums with the kind of energy that screams, "We take ourselves very seriously." At the center of this intellectual circus sits the High Council of Cognitive Excellence. Real name, I'm not making this up. First up, we have Admiral Zephyr, a crystalline being whose body looks like someone shoved a chandelier into a tuxedo and gave it delusions of grandeur. Zephyr's species, the Luxarians, discovered faster than light travel by calculating the exact mathematical relationship between pretension and velocity. Every time Zephyr speaks, little sparkles of light emanate from his crystal facets, because apparently even their biology is showing off. "Welcome, inferior minds," Zephyr announces, his voice ringing like expensive wind chimes in a hurricane. "Today we shall once again demonstrate the vast gulf between true intellect and primitive cognition." Next to him sits Professor Glitch, an insectoid mathematician whose 6 arms never stop moving, constantly scribbling equations in the air with holographic styluses. Glitch belongs to the arithmetical collective, a species that literally evolved from living calculators. Their idea of small talk is debating whether pi has feelings, and they measure time in algorithmic sequences rather than minutes. Glitch's compound eyes dart nervously around the room, probably calculating the statistical probability of social embarrassment down to the 15th decimal place. The mathematical certainty of our intellectual superiority remains at 99.847%, Glitch chitters anxiously, mandibles clicking. Though I should note a 0.003% margin of error for unexpected variables. Commander Flux floats nearby, a being of pure energy contained in a vaguely humanoid force field. The Voltaic Confederation prides itself on thinking at the speed of light, literally. Flux can process more information in a nanosecond than most species handle in a year, which makes him insufferably impatient and even more insufferably confident. "Can we accelerate this procedure?" Flux crackles, his form flickering with irritation. "My thought processes are operating at frequencies that make this conversation feel like geological time." And then there's Dr. Nova, the lone human representative, sitting quietly in her standard-issue Earth diplomatic uniform, looking like she accidentally wandered into a convention for cosmic show-offs. Dr. Rebecca Nova has been attending these competitions for 5 years running, and for 5 years running she's watched her species get ranked somewhere between moderately clever mollusks and above-average houseplants on the galactic intelligence scale. The thing is, Nova doesn't look worried. She looks amused, like someone who knows a really good joke that she's saving for the right moment. "Ladies, gentlemen, sentient crystals and energy beings," Zephyr continues, clearly relishing his role as master of ceremonies. "This year's impossible cognitive challenges have been specifically designed to test the absolute limits of intellectual capability. We have consulted the greatest minds from 47 different star systems to create puzzles so complex, so magnificently intricate, that they represent the very pinnacle of mental achievement." Professor Glitch nods enthusiastically, mathematical symbols literally dancing around his head like the world's nerdiest light show. "The statistical impossibility of solving these challenges approaches absolute certainty. We calculate a success rate of 0.0000001%, and that's being generous." "Generous to whom?" Dr. Nova asks quietly, but nobody seems to hear her. Commander Flux's energy field pulses with anticipation. Finally, a worthy test of true intellectual supremacy. Perhaps now we can settle this matter of galactic cognitive hierarchy once and for all. The 3 alien representatives exchanged what passes for knowing looks among their respective species. The implication is clear. They've designed these challenges specifically to demonstrate their intellectual dominance, and poor little humanity is about to get intellectually crushed, like a bug under the boot of superior alien cognition. Dr. Nova just smiles and checks her watch. "Before we begin," she says, "I hope you don't mind, but I've invited a consultant to help with the human perspective on these challenges." Admiral Zephyr's crystals dim slightly with what might be confusion. "A consultant? Another of your species' so-called scientists?" Something like that, Nova replies, and her smile gets just a tiny bit wider. But first, let's talk about these impossible challenges, because the aliens are practically vibrating with excitement to show them off. And by vibrating, I mean Flux is literally vibrating. Glitch is twitching all 6 arms simultaneously, and Zephyr's crystals are doing that thing where they catch light and throw it around like a disco ball having an identity crisis. Behold, Admiral Zephyr announces with the kind of dramatic flair usually reserved for soap opera villains. The Paradox Maze. A massive holographic structure materializes in the center of the hall, and calling it a maze is like calling a hurricane a light breeze. This thing exists in 12 dimensions simultaneously, with pathways that fold back on themselves, corridors that exist only when you're not looking at them, and exit points that lead to entrance points in different temporal phases. It's like someone took a regular maze, fed it psychedelic mushrooms, and then asked it to solve its own existential crisis. The objective appears simple, Zephyr continues, clearly enjoying himself. Navigate from point A to point B. However, point A and point B exist in a state of quantum flux, constantly exchanging positions based on the observer's cognitive approach to the problem. Each decision creates branching probability matrices that must be solved simultaneously across all dimensional planes. Professor Glitch adds helpfully, the mathematical complexity requires processing 10 to the 47th power possible pathway combinations while maintaining awareness of paradoxical logic states that would normally cause complete mental shutdown in lesser species. Commander Flux crackles impatiently. Simple enough for true intellects. Shall we demonstrate? Oh, this should be good. Flux goes first, his energy form stretching and contorting as he attempts to process all possible pathways simultaneously. For about 30 seconds he looks magnificent, like a living lightning storm conducting a symphony of pure thought. Then his form starts flickering erratically, making sounds like a computer having a nervous breakdown. Error, paradox loop detected, he stammers, before his energy field collapses into what can only be described as the cosmic equivalent of the blue screen of death. Temporal logic circuits overloading, cognitive matrix requires reboot. He phases out entirely for a moment, then rematerializes looking distinctly less confident. The challenge appears to be functioning within acceptable parameters, he mutters. Admiral Zephyr steps forward next, crystals blazing with determination. His approach is more methodical, calculating each dimensional shift with crystalline precision. But after 20 minutes of increasingly frantic light displays, his facets start dimming, one by one. Fascinating, he says weakly. The maze appears to be deliberately constructed to exploit the logical frameworks that define superior cognition. How delightfully challenging. Translation, he's completely stumped and trying to save face. Professor Glitch doesn't even make it to the maze entrance before his calculations overwhelm him. His 6 arms start scribbling equations frantically, but instead of solutions, he's just generating more and more complex problems that spiral into mathematical chaos. The probability matrices are creating recursive loops that generate infinite solution sets, he chitters desperately. Each potential answer creates 17 new paradoxes, which create 43 new mathematical impossibilities, which create... His voice trails off into a series of mathematical whimpers. Right then, Zephyr says, clearly eager to move on. Perhaps the quantum memory palace will prove more... accessible. The second challenge materializes and it's even worse. Imagine trying to remember every possible version of every memory you've ever had, while simultaneously forgetting that you're remembering them, while also remembering things that never happened but could have happened in alternate timelines. Now, do all of that while keeping track of which memories belong to which version of yourself across multiple quantum states. The aliens take their turns with the same results. Flux overloads again, this time making sounds like a dial-up modem having an existential crisis. Zephyr's crystals crack slightly from the strain. Glitch just starts muttering prime numbers in 17 languages, which is apparently what his species does when they have nervous breakdowns. The third challenge, the temporal riddle engine, is somehow even more ridiculous. It's a puzzle that exists across multiple timelines simultaneously, where solving it in one timeline creates new problems in 3 other timelines, and the only way to complete it is to somehow be aware of all possible versions of yourself, solving all possible versions of the puzzle at the exact same moment. By this point, the 3 superior alien intellects are looking distinctly less superior. Flux is flickering weakly, Zephyr's crystal formations have gone dim, and Professor Glitch is rocking back and forth, while his compound eyes stare at equations that exist only in his traumatized mind. Perhaps, Zephyr says, his voice considerably less confident than before. We should take a brief recess to recalibrate our cognitive approaches. Dr. Nova, who has been watching this intellectual train wreck with barely concealed amusement, checks her watch again. Actually, my consultant should be arriving right about now. The massive doors to the conference hall slide open with a theatrical hiss, because apparently even the door controls on this station have a flair for drama. All eyes, compound eyes, crystal facets, and energy sensors turn toward the entrance, expecting to see another human scientist, probably armed with primitive computing devices and a desperate expression. Instead, in walks Tommy Martinez. Tommy is 9 years old, maybe 4 feet tall if he's standing on his tiptoes, wearing a wrinkled Star Wars t-shirt that's seen better days, cargo shorts with mysterious stains that could be either ketchup or the remnants of some epic playground battle, and sneakers that light up when he walks. In one hand, he's clutching a juice box, apple flavor, with a straw already inserted at a slightly crooked angle. In the other hand, he's got a crumpled bag of animal crackers that's making soft crunching sounds as he walks. The silence in the room is so complete you could hear a pin drop if pins made sounds in the vacuum of space, which they don't, but you get the idea. Tommy looks around the massive hall with the kind of casual interest most kids reserve for new playgrounds, completely unbothered by the fact that he's surrounded by the galaxy's supposedly most advanced civilizations. His gaze passes over the floating holographic displays, the impossible geometric architecture, and the 3 alien representatives who are currently in various states of intellectual shell shock. "Whoa," he says, and takes a loud slurp from his juice box. "This place is huge. Do you guys have Wi-Fi?" Admiral Zephyr's crystals flicker with what can only be described as offended confusion. "Dr. Nova, what is the meaning of this? You cannot seriously expect us to believe that this juvenile specimen represents humanity's intellectual contribution to these proceedings." Professor Glitch's compound eyes zoom in on Tommy with mathematical precision. Calculating approximate cranial capacity based on estimated skull volume, computing neural development markers. Error. This entity does not meet minimum cognitive requirements for participation in advanced problem-solving scenarios. Commander Flux's energy field pulses with irritation. "This is insulting. We demand actual scientific representatives, not whatever Earth equivalent of a pet this creature might be." Tommy, meanwhile, has wandered over to examine one of the holographic displays showing the paradox maze. He tilts his head to one side, studying it with the same expression he might use to figure out which cartoon to watch next. "Is this supposed to be hard?" he asks, reaching into his animal crackers bag and pulling out what appears to be a slightly broken elephant. "It looks like that maze game on my mom's phone, except someone went kinda crazy with the 3D effects." Dr. Nova steps forward, and her smile has evolved from amused to positively gleeful. "Gentlemen, sentient beings and cosmic entities, allow me to introduce Tommy Martinez, age 9, 4th grade student at Lincoln Elementary School, current champion of his school's math bowl team, and holder of the regional record for fastest completion of escape room challenges." "Escape rooms?" Zephyr's voice rises an octave, making him sound like a very upset wind chime. "You're comparing our magnificent cognitive challenges to primitive entertainment puzzles?" Tommy also, Nova continues, clearly enjoying herself, holds the household record for solving Rubik's Cubes, completed every level of Portal, and Portal 2, without using a walkthrough, and once figured out how to reprogram his Nintendo Switch to play games it wasn't supposed to be able to run. He did that last one during a car ride to his grandmother's house, because he was bored. Tommy crunches thoughtfully on his animal cracker and nods. "That was a fun trip. Gran made cookies when we got there. Are there cookies here? I'm getting kinda hungry." The 3 alien representatives exchanged looks that somehow managed to convey both intellectual superiority and growing unease. You can practically see their thought processes. Surely this small human child cannot pose any threat to challenges that have stumped the galaxy's finest minds. But then again, why would Dr. Nova bring him here unless— No. Impossible. "Very well," Admiral Zephyr announces, his crystals brightening with renewed confidence. "If humanity wishes to embarrass itself by putting forward a juvenile as their representative, we shall accommodate this gesture. Perhaps observing the child's inevitable failure will provide amusing anthropological data about human cognitive development." Professor Glitch starts calculating furiously. Statistical probability of successful completion by an underdeveloped human neural matrix, 0.000000001%. Margin of error, negligible. Commander Flux crackles dismissively. "This should be entertaining, if brief. Shall we begin the demonstration of impossibility?" Tommy finishes his animal cracker and wipes his hands on his shorts, leaving small crumb marks that would probably horrify the cleaning staff, if this station had cleaning staff that worried about such things. Sure, he says, taking another slurp from his juice box. But can we make it quick? There's a new episode of my show on tonight and Mom said I can stay up late if I finish my homework first. Dr. Nova gestures toward the challenges. Take your time, Tommy. There's no pressure. Tommy nods seriously and approaches the first puzzle like he's being asked to clean his room, with the resigned acceptance of a kid who knows the sooner he gets it done, the sooner he can get back to the fun stuff. What happens next will probably be talked about in alien psychology textbooks for the next 1,000 years, assuming alien psychologists can handle the trauma of witnessing it firsthand. Tommy walks up to the Paradox Maze, the 12-dimensional nightmare that broke 3 of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, and tilts his head like he's trying to figure out which way is up. He takes another slurp from his juice box, the sound echoing through the now dead-silent hall. Okay, he says, more to himself than anyone else. So, this is like one of those mazes where the walls move, except they're moving in directions that don't exist, and the exit keeps switching places with the entrance. Professor Glitch's mandibles start clicking nervously. The child appears to be grossly oversimplifying a complex multi-dimensional matrix problem that requires simultaneous quantum state awareness across 47 probability fields. Tommy ignores him and pulls out his phone. Not some advanced human technology, just a regular smartphone with a cracked screen protector and a case covered in cartoon stickers. I'm just going to use the Maze Solver app I downloaded for homework help, he announces, pointing the phone's camera at the holographic maze. My teacher said these kinds of puzzles always have patterns. You just gotta know where to look. The app beeps cheerfully, scans the maze for about 10 seconds, and then Tommy starts walking. Not through the holographic projection, mind you, but he traces the solution in the air with his finger, while simultaneously munching on animal crackers. See, the trick is, you're not supposed to think about all the dimensions at once, he explains between bites. That's like trying to watch every channel on TV simultaneously. Instead, you just follow the path that stays consistent when you're not looking directly at it, like peripheral vision but for math. Admiral Zephyr's crystals are starting to flicker erratically. That is not, the mathematical foundations of the challenge require. One cannot simply... Got it! Tommy announces, and somehow, impossibly, the maze's exit portal opens with a cheerful ding sound, like a microwave finishing a bag of popcorn. Next puzzle. The silence that follows is the kind of silence that happens when reality takes a coffee break and leaves everyone else to figure out what just happened. Tommy moves on to the quantum memory palace while the aliens are still processing the fact that their impossible maze just got solved by a kid using a homework app and snack food. This one's like organizing my room, Tommy observes, studying the swirling chaos of infinite memory states. Mom's always telling me I need to remember where I put stuff, but the thing is, you don't need to remember everything all at once, you just need to remember where you put the thing that helps you remember everything else. He starts humming the theme song from some cartoon while casually reaching into the quantum memory construct. Instead of trying to hold all possible memories simultaneously, he just starts organizing them like files in a folder structure. Bad memories go in the deal with later folder. Good memories go in the remember when I'm sad folder. School stuff goes in the things I need to know for tests folder. And random weird memories go in the probably dreamed this folder. Commander Flux's energy field is fluctuating wildly. This is impossible. The quantum states require maintaining conscious awareness of infinite contradictory possibilities. No single consciousness can organize infinite memory matrices without complete cognitive collapse. I don't know about infinite, Tommy says, successfully navigating through memory spaces that should theoretically require omniscience. But I bet it's not actually infinite, just really big. Like when my dad says we have infinite pizza combinations at the pizza place, but really, we just have a lot of toppings and he's being dramatic. The memory palace responds to Tommy's organizational system, like it's been waiting its whole existence for someone to finally clean house properly. Pathways light up, memories sort themselves into neat categories, and the whole impossible structure suddenly makes perfect logical sense. There we go, Tommy says, wiping crumbs off his shirt. What's the last one? The temporal riddle engine looms before them, a puzzle that exists across multiple timelines and requires solving problems that haven't been invented yet, while remembering solutions that won't work until next Tuesday. Tommy studies it while finishing his juice box with a loud slurping sound that probably violates several galactic noise ordinances. This is like planning my week, he says brightly. I gotta do homework on Monday, but I can't do the math homework until I learn the new stuff in class, and I can't turn in the science project until I buy poster board, but Mom can't take me to the store until Saturday, so I gotta work backwards from when everything's due and figure out what order to do stuff in. He starts manipulating the temporal puzzle interfaces like he's planning his schedule around cartoon broadcasts and snack times. Instead of trying to solve everything simultaneously across all timelines, he just maps out a logical sequence. Do this first in timeline A, which makes this possible in timeline B, which solves this problem in timeline C, which creates the conditions needed to start the whole thing in the first place. The trick, he explains while the impossible puzzle starts untangling itself into something resembling sanity, is you don't try to be everywhere at once. You just figure out what needs to happen when, and then do it in the right order. Like getting dressed. You don't put your shoes on before your socks, even if you could technically do it. The temporal riddle engine makes a satisfied chiming sound and displays a big holographic checkmark, like it's thanking Tommy for finally putting it out of its misery. Tommy looks around at the three alien representatives, who are staring at him with the kind of expression usually reserved for people who've just watched their entire worldview get run over by a truck driven by a 9-year-old. Are we done? He asks hopefully. Because I'm getting really hungry, and Dr. Nova said there might be snacks afterward. Also, do you guys know if the space station gift shop sells anything cool? My little sister likes space stuff. The next few minutes are what scientists might call a period of cognitive recalibration, but what everyone else would recognize as three advanced alien civilizations having simultaneous mental breakdowns. Admiral Zephyr's crystalline form is flickering through colors that probably don't have names in any language, making sounds like a chandelier being played as a xylophone by someone having an existential crisis. Professor Glitch has curled up into a ball, with all 6 arms wrapped around his head, muttering mathematical equations that seem to involve dividing by 0 and taking the square root of negative confusion. Commander Flux keeps phasing in and out of existence, like he can't decide whether this reality is worth staying materialized in. Tommy, oblivious to the cosmic psychological damage he's just inflicted, has found a chair and is now using it as a table to organize his remaining animal crackers by species, apparently having decided that elephants taste better than lions, but giraffes are the optimal structural choice for building tiny edible zoos. Dr. Nova, meanwhile, is trying very hard not to look too smug, which is like trying not to look wet while standing in a rainstorm. I believe, she says carefully, the council requested an explanation of these results. Admiral Zephyr pulls himself together first, his crystals stabilizing into a color that might charitably be called offended magenta. This is clearly some form of human trickery, he declares, though his voice lacks the confident ring it had earlier. No primitive species could possibly solve challenges designed by the galaxy's most advanced minds, using such logic, Dr. Nova suggests helpfully. Juvenile oversimplification, Zephyr finishes firmly. Commander Flux rematerializes with enough force to cause a small electromagnetic pulse. There must be some explanation. Perhaps the human child is utilizing technology we cannot detect. Advanced neural implants, quantum computation matrices hidden in primitive disguises. Tommy looks up from his animal cracker organization project. What's a quantum computation matrix? Is that like when my calculator does the big math problems for me? Professor Glitch untangles himself and approaches Tommy with the cautious curiosity of a scientist studying a particularly dangerous specimen. His compound eyes focus on Tommy's head, scanning for signs of advanced technology. No electromagnetic signatures detected, he reports nervously. No quantum field fluctuations, no evidence of cybernetic enhancement, no connection to external processing networks. Cranial capacity appears consistent with standard juvenile human parameters. Of course it does, Dr. Nova says, and now she's not even trying to hide her amusement. Would you like to know the secret? The 3 aliens lean forward with the desperate eagerness of students who've failed a test they'd thought they'd aced. The secret, Dr. Nova continues, is that there is no secret. Tommy solved your puzzles exactly the way any human child would solve them. He looked at complex problems and found simple solutions. He didn't try to overthink them. He didn't get lost in the mathematical elegance of the challenge design, and he didn't assume that complexity automatically equals difficulty. She gestures toward Tommy, who has successfully built a small menagerie out of crackers and is now making soft animal noises as he plays with them. You see, for all your advanced civilizations and superior intellects, you've made a fundamental error in your understanding of intelligence. You've confused complexity with effectiveness. Your species spent millennia developing increasingly sophisticated ways to think about problems, but Tommy here represents something you've forgotten how to do. Which is, Admiral Zephyr asks, though he sounds like he's afraid of the answer. Think like a beginner. The aliens exchange glances that somehow manage to convey both confusion and dawning horror. Dr. Nova continues, clearly enjoying her moment. Your paradox maze was unsolvable because you designed it to be unsolvable by the kind of advanced logical frameworks your species use. But Tommy didn't try to use advanced logic. He just treated it like a maze, found the pattern, and followed it. Your quantum memory palace required holding infinite contradictory memories simultaneously, which is impossible for any mind that's learned to think in terms of logical consistency. But Tommy organized it like his room, because he hasn't learned yet that organization has to be complicated. Commander Flux is flickering rapidly now. You're suggesting that intellectual development is actually counterproductive? I'm suggesting that your intellectual development has made you stupid. The silence that follows this statement could power a small star. Tommy looks up from his crackazoo. Can someone show me where the bathroom is? I drank that whole juice box and Mom says I should always go before long car rides. Is the trip back to Earth going to be long? Are we going to stop for food? Dr. Nova points toward the exit. Down the hall, second door on the right. And yes, we can stop for food on the way home. Cool, Tommy says, and trots off, leaving behind 3 alien civilizations, grappling with the uncomfortable realization that they've been intellectually outmaneuvered by someone who still needs permission to use the bathroom. Professor Glitch breaks the silence first. The statistical implications are disturbing. If primitive cognitive approaches are more effective than advanced logical systems, then our entire understanding of intelligence hierarchies requires fundamental revision. Revision? Admiral Zephyr's crystals are now cycling through what can only be described as embarrassed ultraviolet. This suggests that our civilizations have spent countless millennia becoming more sophisticated and less intelligent simultaneously. Commander Flux has stopped flickering and is now glowing with the steady light of someone having a very uncomfortable epiphany. The human child succeeded because he retained cognitive flexibility that our species discarded in favor of specialized thinking patterns. Dr. Nova nods. Tommy doesn't know that 12-dimensional mazes are supposed to be impossible, so he doesn't waste time being impressed by their impossibility. He doesn't know that memory palaces require advanced meditation techniques, so he just organizes them efficiently. He doesn't know that temporal riddles need quantum consciousness, so he treats them like scheduling problems. She pauses for effect. Ignorance, as it turns out, is bliss, and occasionally, it's also genius. Tommy returns from his bathroom break to find 3 alien civilizations in the middle of what can only be described as a collective identity crisis. Admiral Zephyr is sitting very still, his crystals dim and contemplative. Professor Glitch is frantically recalculating what appears to be his entire species' approach to mathematics. Commander Flux is stabilized into a steady, subdued glow that suggests he's having the kind of deep thoughts that usually require either enlightenment or really good therapy. Did I miss something? Tommy asks, completely oblivious to the fact that he's just accidentally revolutionized a galactic understanding of intelligence. Also, the bathroom has really cool automatic soap dispensers. They make little musical notes when you wash your hands. Dr. Nova checks her watch. I think we're just about ready to wrap up here. Tommy, how would you feel about receiving the Cosmic Genius Medal? Tommy perks up with interest. Is it shiny? My sister likes shiny things. What's it made of? Admiral Zephyr clears his throat, which sounds like wind chimes being politely coughed through. The Cosmic Genius Medal is forged from crystallized starlight and quantum-stabilized nebula matter. It represents the highest intellectual achievement recognized by the Galactic Council. Cool, Tommy says. Can I trade it for something? The question hangs in the air like a small bomb waiting to explode. Trade it? Professor Glitch's compound eyes zoom in on Tommy with mathematical precision. The Cosmic Genius Medal is priceless. It represents academic achievement beyond measure. It's the most prestigious award in 47 star systems. Tommy shrugs. Yeah, but I already get good grades, and Mom puts those on the refrigerator, which is way more convenient than carrying around a medal. Is there anything useful I could trade it for? Commander Flux flickers with what might be curiosity. What would you consider useful, young human? Tommy thinks for a moment, tapping his finger against his chin in the universal gesture of a kid weighing his options. Well, he says finally, there's this really good cereal that Mom doesn't buy very often because she says it's too expensive and has too much sugar. If I could get like a year's supply of that, that would be pretty awesome. The silence that follows is the kind of silence that happens when the universe pauses to appreciate irony. You wish to trade the most prestigious intellectual achievement award in the galaxy for breakfast cereal? Admiral Zephyr asks, his voice climbing toward frequencies only crystalline beings can hear. Sugar cereal, Tommy corrects. The kind with the marshmallows that change colors when you add milk. It's really good. Dr. Nova is now grinning so widely it probably violates several diplomatic protocols. I think that can be arranged. And so it comes to pass that Tommy Martinez, age 9, becomes the youngest being in galactic history to receive the Cosmic Genius Medal and the first being in galactic history to immediately trade it for a year's supply of Lucky Charms knockoff cereal from the space station commissary. The formal ceremony is brief but memorable, mainly because Tommy keeps asking if they can hurry it up since there's a new episode of his show starting soon, and he promised his mom he'd be home in time for dinner. As they prepared to leave, the 3 alien representatives gather around Dr. Nova for what passes as a private conference among beings whose entire conversation has been broadcast to 47 different star systems. The implications of today's revelations will require significant recalibration of our intelligence assessment protocols, Admiral Zephyr admits, his crystals now cycling through what might charitably be called humbled rainbow. Professor Glitch nods vigorously. Statistical models for cognitive capability evaluation across species barriers require complete reconstruction from foundational principles. Commander Flux pulses thoughtfully. Perhaps our next intelligence summit should include a broader range of problem-solving approaches. Less emphasis on complexity, more focus on effectiveness. Dr. Nova nods graciously. I think that's a wonderful idea. Though I should mention, Tommy's got a little sister who's even better at video games than he is, just in case you want to design any challenges involving spatial reasoning or pattern recognition. The 3 aliens exchanged looks of what can only be described as preemptive terror. Meanwhile, Tommy has discovered that the space station's gift shop sells glow-in-the-dark asteroid models, which he declares are way cooler than metals, and purchases 3 of them using what appears to be his allowance money and a coupon he found in his pocket. As their shuttle prepares for departure back to Earth, Tommy settles into his seat with his new asteroid models, his year's supply of cereal, which takes up most of the cargo hold, and a juice box he acquired somewhere during the gift shop expedition. That was fun, he announces. Can we come back sometime? I want to see if they have any of those maze games that are actually challenging. Dr. Nova laughs. We'll see, Tommy, we'll see. As Earth grows larger in the viewport, Tommy pulls out a tablet and starts playing a game that involves matching colored shapes in increasingly complex patterns. Within minutes, he's achieved scores that the game's designers probably thought were mathematically impossible. Behind them, 3 alien civilizations began the long process of rewriting their understanding of intelligence, consciousness, and the fundamental nature of problem-solving. And somewhere in a suburban kitchen, Tommy's mom is wondering why her grocery budget just got a lot more manageable, and why her son keeps talking about nice space people who were really impressed with his homework skills. The universe, meanwhile, continues spinning along, slightly more humble than it was before, and significantly more aware that sometimes the most profound solutions come from the most unexpected places. Even if those places happen to be 9 years old and primarily concerned with serial variety and cartoon scheduling.